Okay, so how do you take something super dry, like a massive legal framework or a really dense safety audit, and actually turn it into a dynamic, multi-host investigative series that people want to listen to?
Right. I mean, it sounds a little bit like magic, but today we're literally tearing down the engine of a sophisticated AI content machine. We're going to see exactly how raw text gets sculpted into polished audio. So, welcome to the Explainer.
Let's get right into the architect's blueprint. Yeah, mastering AI content frameworks. So the real magic actually starts back here in the studio. And this is operated through a Google Workspace Ultra account. This isn't just dumping text into a machine and crossing your fingers. It's pure orchestration.
Exactly. You're taking a dense custom PDF and programming it into a highly engaging, long-form multimedia format. And honestly, the level of control you have is wild. The native program, sure, it has limitations on outright swapping voices, but this workflow completely bypasses all of that. You extract the links, run them through external tools like 11 Labs, and you ensure those voices match your exact vision perfectly.
Yeah, for sure. But where it gets really crazy to me is the microanalysis of prompt directing. Because instead of just saying, hey, AI, summarize this, you're actually assigning highly specific roles. Like you can type, have a biobehaviorist and a dog trainer discuss Paul Miller and dog training.
Right, and that is just such an incredible micro-level shift. Just by doing that, you completely alter the context. You alter the depth. You aren't just getting a flat summary anymore. Suddenly you've got a dog behaviorist dissecting specific training features with a dog trainer. It creates this whole dynamic conversational triangle, right? The AI starts debating and analyzing, and it uncovers these insights that you would normally completely miss.
Oh, totally. And it goes way beyond just, assigning a profession. You're actually programming their emotional intelligence. You can inject these incredibly nuanced directives straight into the prompt. You tell the host to be mindful or kind, sensitive, maybe even trauma-informed. Wow. So you are literally dictating the bedside manner of the AI. You're programming the exact emotional resonance you need those hosts to carry for your specific audience. That is some serious narrative control. It really is. And the thing is, when you input these super complex prompts, like having a neuropsychiatrist discuss heavy metals and behavioral effects, the AI goes to work and it generates massive files. We are talking up to 35 minutes of raw audio content.
Which is an enormous amount of output. And the source material actually calls this initial raw generation word salad. Because it's vast, it covers everything under the sun, but it is definitely not the final product. You really have to refine it.
Right, which brings us to the refinement loop. To turn that raw 35-minute word salad into a polished gem, you essentially follow 4 steps. Step 1, you generate that long audio. Step 2, you play it back and transcribe the whole thing using a tool like Otter. And then step 3 is where the real work kicks in. You listen closely and you extract what the source brilliantly calls the mind candy. Then finally, step 4, you take that refined text, drop it right back into your AI agent, and reprompt it. You're basically using the AI's first draft to write a vastly superior second draft. I really love that concept of mind candy, because you aren't keeping the whole 35 minutes. You're acting as an editor, just hunting for those perfect 1 or 2 minute sweet spots in the timeline.
Exactly. You're breaking the scenes up. So when you find the exact moment that the biobehaviorist makes some profound point about dog food ingredients, you isolate it. You export that highly focused transcript and feed it right back into the studio to create a refined, multi-layered segment. It's just a continuous cycle.
Okay, so we know how to make the content sound incredible, but how do you decide what to actually talk about in the first place? Well, this requires zooming out to a macro strategy. We're talking about a comprehensive executive framework built right inside the AI.
Yeah, the 4-metric formula. It acts as your narrative roadmap. Every single potential topic gets weighed against search intent, the level of public concern, research availability, and the resulting content angle. This matrix right here is what ultimately determines what makes it to the front page of an investigative series.
Let's actually compare 2 high-priority topics just to see how that framework operates. Take heavy metals in dog food. The search intent there is purely informational. People want the hard facts. The lab data is bulletproof. So the narrative angle naturally becomes a straight-up, alarming safety investigation.
Right. But then you contrast that with something like raw versus kibble diets. The search intent completely flips over to comparison. The audience already knows what the options are, so the narrative angle has to shift. You aren't uncovering a hidden danger. Instead, you're acting as a guide to help consumers navigate a really complex purchasing decision.
Now, both of those topics hit the golden ticket, right? They have high public concern backed by undeniable research. But what happens when the science just isn't there?
Well, the AI's generated conversation actually dropped a really great analogy for this. They said, trying to build this huge definitive expose is kind of like trying to convict someone without the murder weapon.
Man, that is such a crucial point. If you prioritize a topic where the hard proof is lacking, you completely risk your entire editorial credibility.
But wait, let me play devil's advocate here for a second, using the artificial dyes dilemma. Because anyone who goes to a dog park knows there is a massive public obsession around this. I mean, people have absolute dog park paranoia over a single drop of red dye, even while their dog is eating literal garbage off the ground. The concern is off the charts. So shouldn't that demand a deep dive? You totally think so. But the executive framework actually forces this topic down a tier. Why? Because the moderate research availability acts as a hard bottleneck. It actually doesn't matter how desperate the audience is. If the scientific data is inconclusive or just really newly emerging, you simply cannot build a definitive, high-priority investigation around it. The strength of the evidence has to dictate the focus.
That makes perfect sense. Now, as brilliant as this whole workflow is, running things like the Bay Canine Success Framework or those massive Muir Beach Protocol audits, that demands a huge amount of processing power.
Yeah, and that is exactly where we hit reality. When you push these systems to perform these crazy analytical feats and you upload those comprehensive materials, you trigger aggressive system throttling. The AI platform just starts pushing back hard.
So why exactly does it throttle? Well, first up is context window taxation. When you have a massive custom dataset uploaded, the system has to scan that entire document with every single query. It requires exponentially more compute power, and it just burns through your usage caps instantly.
Right, and then you have dynamic load balancing. Server demand fluctuates constantly, and honestly, even with a premium tier, you're going to be throttled to stabilize their network. Oh, and don't forget background indexing.
The worst. If you constantly add new behavioral logs or case studies, the system just silently drains your quota trying to index all those new documents in the background.
Exactly. So to survive that, you need a highly strategic formal action plan. Step 1, fragment the data. You have to stop loading everything into one giant pool. Keep your legal ledgers in one notebook, keep your genetic blueprints in another. Smaller pools trigger fewer limits.
Step 2, consolidate queries. Stop rapid-firing conversational questions. Compile your prompts into single, highly structured requests to really maximize the output. And step 3, establish local redundancy. You've got to make sure your core methodologies are accessible offline, so you aren't completely left at the mercy of corporate server limits.
Following this blueprint is really what lets you build an incredibly authoritative series. But we do want to leave you with a profound final thought today. A question that was actually generated by the AI hosts themselves during one of those deep dive loops. They asked, does active comparison, like weighing raw versus kibble, drive more real-world purchasing behavior than passively reading an alarming safety report?
It's a fantastic question, isn't it? It really forces us to reconsider what genuinely drives consumer action over what merely generates clicks. It's definitely something to ponder the next time you're scanning your own data. Thanks so much for joining us on this explainer.
See you next time.